Good afternoon, attending attorneys, professors, and judges. It is a pleasure to present this expert testimony on behalf of the New Zealand Digital Forensic Team regarding the cyber incidents at the Five Eyes Summit. As you may know, digital forensics is becoming a growing necessity currently with the growth of technology. Nations, organizations, and individuals are seeing an increase in cyber attacks constantly. Digital forensic investigators handle the recovery and investigation of evidence that is legally found on computer hard drives, mobile devices, digital storage files, or software. The investigators are responsible for preserving, collecting, validating, identifying, analyzing, interpreting, documenting, and presenting digital evidence. Digital forensic investigations can also be an essential resource for nations, organizations, and individuals that face data breaches or other cybercrimes. Having the ability to examine computer hard drives, digital storage files, and software helps authorities in identifying the source of attacks. The New Zealand Digital Forensic Team handled several investigations at the Five Eyes Summit, which included a security baseline, defensive monitoring, Wireshark packet capture analysis, and a ransomware attack and mitigation investigation. These investigations require the New Zealand Digital Forensic investigators to use several tools to identify and uncover sources of attack. The tools used for the investigations included Nessus, OpenSCAP, Yara, Thunderbird, Wireshark, Snort, CryptTool, Excel, OPHCrack, Our Secret, Kane Enable, Toolkit, and FTK Imager. The court has been provided with a compilation report detailing the Five Eyes Summit investigations completed by the New Zealand Digital Forensic investigators. I look forward to answering any questions the panel may have. Nations must define system security baselines to maintain security standards set by governing entities. New Zealand will work with other nations to build system security baselines. The tools used by New Zealand Cyber Management Team to create the security baselines included OpenSCAP Workbench and Nessus. OpenSCAP Workbench allowed the team to build custom baselines for the systems, while Nessus allowed the team to scan their systems for vulnerabilities to help further understand the security measures that have to be taken and what threats are looking to take advantage of the vulnerabilities. The vulnerability scans used by the team included the basic network scan and the two advanced network scans. The basic scans results in this case revealed the system had 28 vulnerabilities. There was one critical level vulnerability due to the RDP remote code execution vulnerability. There were 8 medium level vulnerabilities due to SSL medium strength cipher suites and SMB signing not being required. There were 3 low level vulnerabilities and 34 info level vulnerabilities. With advanced scans conducted, the results revealed the system had 32 vulnerabilities. The critical, medium, and low level vulnerabilities are similar to the basic scan, except for the 39 info level vulnerabilities found. The advanced scan with the NIST Windows configuration baseline, in this case, the scan results revealed the system had 40 vulnerabilities. The critical, medium, and low vulnerabilities are similar to the previous scan results, except for the 72 info level vulnerabilities found. In the defensive monitoring investigation, there was a denial of service, also known as a DOS attack incident, that required New Zealand Cyber Management Team expertise. The DOS attack affected participants of the Five Eyes Summit. The team had to analyze network traffic using Wireshark as well as the Snort tool. DOS attacks occur when legitimate users are unable to access information systems, devices, or other network resources due to the actions of malicious cyber threat actors. The attacks are carried out by flooding the target host or network with requests until the target cannot respond or simply crashes, which in turn prevents legitimate users from gaining the access required. The Five Eyes Summit DOS attack affected the external facing web server and web access to the summit as well as the attending nations' government websites. The high volume of traffic also caused latency in third-party websites whose processes and data sharing are linked to the summit and the nation's government websites. To analyze the network packet capture file and identify the bad actor, Team New Zealand used Wireshark tool. The New Zealand team also used the Snort tool to run the Snort rules, which identify the type of malicious attacks that occurred. In this case, the team found the bad actor IP address. The team then had to determine what HTTP method was used, which was accomplished by using the bad actor IP address found. The team determined that the HTTP method used was GET. Wireshark showed the destination server was receiving numerous GET requests for information from the source server. In each case, the response back to the source server was an HTTP 404 error, text not found. This gave the team an indication of a possible DOS attack. The team also used an alternative way to find the HTTP methods used by looking at the packet counter window, which showed the HTTP request packets GET had the highest count, and the HTTP response packets 404 not found had the second highest count. This further verified the team findings of a DOS attack. The New Zealand team used the snort tool to identify what types of malicious attacks occurred, causing the high volume of activity that was shutting down web access to the summit and to the attending nation's government websites. The team was able to create snort rules that alerted on DOS attacks, possible DOS attacks, and attempted DOS attacks performed against the web server. By running the snort rules created against the pre-captured network traffic, the New Zealand team was able to detect a DOS attack against the web server based on the bad actor IP address found previously with Wireshark. Using snort, the New Zealand team was able to confirm a DOS attack, possible DOS attack, and attempted DOS attack. In the Wireshark packet capture analysis investigation, an administrator was alerted by a host monitoring system of a non-responsive internal web server. The host monitoring system automatically initiated a packet capture when the alert was sent to the administrator. There was suspicion that some form of network incident had occurred. The administrator used Wireshark to analyze the packet to uncover what exploited vulnerability was taken advantage of and determine what data was breached or stolen. There were attempts to scan a network for vulnerabilities. Those attempts led to a vulnerability being discovered and exploited on a network. The team was able to determine that the incident started on June 8, 2017 at 9:59 p.m. and lasted until June 8, 2017, 10:05 p.m. The UDP protocol over port 55 was used for the transmission between the computers. The team found the affected system IP address as well as the offending system IP address. With the amount of UDP traffic on the network, the team could conclude that a DOS attack was perpetrated against the web server. In reviewing the packet capture in more depth, Team New Zealand also uncovered a significant amount of HTTP traffic against an internal web server. When analyzing additional HTTP packets, the team noticed other GET requests for resources that were abnormal for standard browsing of a web server and requests for resources that may or may not exist. These abnormal requests allowed the team to uncover more attacks launched against the web server, such as directory traversal, cross-site scripting, and SQL injections. There also appeared to be a repeated username and password brute force attacks against the root and administrator user accounts. Not only was the New Zealand team able to identify attacks launched against the web server, the team was also able to identify the tool used to carry out the attack. The NICTO tool was used to carry out the attacks on the web server. NICTO is an open source vulnerability scanner that scans web servers for dangerous files, CGIs, outdated server software, and other problems. In the ransomware investigation, the New Zealand forensic investigator looked into a potential compromise of an organization's network. An employee is unable to access any files on their workstation, and the other users cannot open documents that are shared from that employee's workstation. The HR manager suspects that ransomware may be the cause of the problems. The HR benefits coordinator received an email with a Microsoft Excel document attached. The attachment appeared to be a billing invoice from one of the organization's vendors. When the benefit coordinator attempted to open the invoice, a security warning appeared that claimed the automatic update of links needs to be enabled before the contents of the document could be viewed. The coordinator followed instructions to update the Excel document so that its content could be viewed. However, after the data link was updated, documents and files contained in the shared folder were encrypted and not accessible to any user. The cybersecurity incident response professional recovered the computer that was compromised so that they could examine the infected system. The incident response professional had to use their knowledge of cracking passwords, decrypting cryptograms, analyzing packet captures, analyzing attack scripts, and performing stenography to recover the compromised system. The investigator used Wireshark to analyze the PCAP file of the ransomware attack captured. The investigator used the HTTP filter and was able to see the GET HTTP methods and URL patterns of the packet traffic. The investigator was able to locate the source and destination IP address of the attack, as well as find the IP address of the compromised system and the systems that were compromised by the IP address. Next, the investigators had to analyze the attack script file. The first line starts the web service to access the malware server. The second line defines where the ransomware will come from. The next line defines where the malware will be placed. The line after that executes the download of the malware. Then the malware is executed and encrypts the files. After analyzing the file, investigators review the instructions from the attacker on how to retrieve the key to fix the files and deliver the ransom. Investigators reviewed the infotext file that was provided by the developer of the ransomware as an instruction key to the script kiddie. The script kiddie unintentionally shared the attack script text and infotext files during the attack of the computer that belongs to the HR benefits coordinator. With the file open, investigators were presented with ciphertext on top and a hash password on the bottom. The investigator then had to use the crypt tool to decrypt the ciphertext located in the infotext file. The plaintext revealed that there was an unlocker program attached to an image file that was created using the RSecret tool. The investigator then had to crack the password hash that was located at the bottom of the infotext file. To crack the password hash, investigators used the OPH crack tool. For the OPH crack tool to work correctly, investigators had to install two rainbow tables, which included the Vista Free and XP Free fast rainbow tables. Once the hash was loaded into the single hash dialog box, the investigator could select crack. The password found by the investigator was CyberWar. The password that was collected from the OPH crack tool was used to unlock content hidden within an image file by the ransomware developer. So the investigators could unlock the content hidden within the image. The investigator had to use the RSecret tool. The investigator launched the RSecret tool and uploaded a carrier file image on the unhide side. When the carrier file had finished uploading, the investigator then entered the password, and the unlocker executable program was extracted from the image file. The unlocker executable program is used to unlock the files in the ransomware folder. The investigator had to recover the password from the command and control server. The investigator had to review the decrypted cryptogram information to understand how to recover the password. The ID reference in the cryptogram was found in the read to decrypt HTML document on the desktop of the compromised system. Using the ID provided in conjunction with the URL, the investigator was taken to a site that provided the password needed to unlock the files in the ransomware folder along with the unlocker executable program. The investigator then executed the unlocker executable program, which launched the command prompt that prompted the investigator for a password. When the password was entered, the ransomware folder files were decrypted. The investigator was able to create detecting indicators using snort rules. The snort alerts created were run against the Wireshark capture. Snort alerted on the attack script and ransomware. The instance action was not alerted on. In the digital forensic investigation, authorities believe suspect Howard Silver is a high-level computer hacker involved in more than 100 ransomware cases. Even though the authorities suspect Mr. Silver is responsible for the ransomware attacks, they have not been able to connect him to any criminal activities. So when Mr. Silver called the 911 dispatcher to report his fiancée Mina missing, the authorities had an opportunity to get more evidence related to the ransomware cases. The police were able to obtain a search warrant for Mr. Silver's house due to their interviews and Mrs. Mina's missing person status for several days. According to Mina's co-workers, she was going to confront Mr. Silver's about an affair he was having with her best friend's daughter, Gina Angel. The search warrant allowed authorities to retrieve all computers and related components from Mr. Silver's house. The police planned to search Mr. Silver's place of work and the landfill disposal site after executing the search warrant. The digital forensic examiner assigned to the Silver's investigation received a flash drive from the authorities. The forensic examiner started their investigation by taking the forensic image of the flash drive using Access Data FTK Imager. This helps ensure the integrity of the data on the flash drive is maintained, as well as keeps the original data from being altered. When the forensic imaging process was complete, the forensic examiner began their examination of the flash drive. There was This was done using the Access Data Forensic Toolkit. The forensic examiner found that there were 7 deleted files on the flash drive. The file's content revealed information on rules for entering and using the landfill, euthanasia agents, and how they could be used to cause death. The file also contained information on the burial and disposal of animals in the landfill, as well as the disposal of carcasses, which included burying or burning the carcass. Additionally, the files provide information on Mr. Silver's and Miss Angel's relationship. The letters mentioned Mr. Silver and Miss Angel taking a trip to Hawaii on July 10th. The letters also mention Mr. Silver dumping Mina. In addition to the deleted text files, the forensic examiner was able to uncover a text file with Mr. Silver's and Miss Angel's itinerary for their flight to Hawaii. Mr. Silver and Miss Angel were scheduled to leave HCC on Tuesday, July 10th at 3:45 p.m. and arrive in Hawaii at 9:05 p.m. They were scheduled to return on Saturday, July 16th, leaving Hawaii at 8:45 p.m. and arriving back in HCC at 9:55 p.m. The digital forensic examiner was also able to find deleted photos of Miss Angel with the message "Love Gina" on them. With the findings made by the forensic examiner, the authorities do have probable cause to arrest Mr. Silver for the murder of his fiancee Mina. However, there was no evidence found on the flash drives connecting Mr. Silver to the ransomware attacks. The first question posed to the New Zealand digital forensic expert by the panel is, what are the legal challenges associated with cyber incidents involving foreign countries? How do internal laws affect e-discovery? Reference and discuss all international laws that may influence a forensic investigation in the country that your team is assigned. The legal challenges associated with cyber incidents involving foreign countries are the differences in laws between each country. Laws are regionally aligned with the territories of countries they originated from. Every country has its own set of laws and regulations that must be followed. Data protection laws are governed by regions within a country, meaning that a legal process conducted in one country could be illegal in another. Internal laws can impact data retrieval techniques, data storage methods, and data analysis procedures for e-discovery. Each process must be followed according to the laws of the area, otherwise there is a risk of illegally handling private digital areas. Criminals take advantage of differing laws between countries by launching attacks from countries where the laws aren't as strict, or launching attacks from rival countries. External laws are not enforceable in New Zealand unless an agreement or treaty is sanctioned. Laws that may influence forensic investigation in New Zealand include the Privacy Act of 1993, the Intelligence and Security Act of 2017, and the General Data Protection Regulation, also known as GDPR. The Privacy Act of 1993 governs how agencies collect, use, disclose, store, retain, and give access to personal information. The Act gives the Privacy Commissioner the power to issue codes practice that modify the operation of Act in relation to a specific industry, agencies, activities, or type of personal information. The Intelligence and Security Act of 2017 is in place to protect New Zealand as a free, open, democratic society by establishing intelligence and security agencies that will effectively contribute to the protection of New Zealand national security, international relations, and well-being of New Zealand, as well as the economic well-being of New Zealand. Additionally, the Act strives to give intelligence and security agencies adequate and appropriate functions, powers, and duties. The General Data Protection Regulation (GDPR) imposes a uniform data security law on all European Union members, so that each member state no longer needs to write its own data protection laws, and laws are consistent across the entire EU. In addition to EU members, it is important to note that any company that markets goods or services to EU residents, regardless of its location, is subject to regulation. As a result, GDPR will have an impact on data protection requirements globally. The next question posed to the New Zealand digital forensic expert by the panel is, what are the legal challenges of accessing and retrieving electronic evidence stored on foreign soil? Assuming cloud storage was used, what procedures were followed to access and retrieve digital evidence stored in the cloud? Laws in other countries greatly impact how electronic evidence can be accessed and retrieved on foreign soil. It is important to remember when retrieving digital evidence stored on foreign soil that the laws must be followed where the data is stored, not the laws of the party accessing or retrieving the data. If the laws are not abided by, parties can be prohibited from collecting or gathering electronic evidence. This is why it's important to understand the policy differences between each country. Ensuring emphasis is placed on reviewing foreign country policies before attempting data retrieval is important. If evidence is stored in the cloud, there are generally specific security requirements set by the original owner. These requirements must be met by the digital forensic investigator. Cloud storage devices and platforms can be regulated by contractual guidelines requiring both sets of parties to adhere to the previous established set of rules. Cloud data presents a challenge for digital forensic investigators as it is seen as residing in virtual space, not a physical location. However, it goes back to the jurisdiction of the original owner. All New Zealand organizations are subject to New Zealand's legislation by default. The New Zealand Privacy Act of 1993 is a legislation that addresses both providing and using cloud services in New Zealand, followed by the Public Records Act, the Tax Act, and the Customs and Excise Act. A common point of these three acts are they all limit the storage of specific types of data, offshore or in the cloud. The main point of such limitation is to protect the information owner's rights to protect certain sensitive information. Through the NZ Cloud Computing Code of Practice, professional and responsible cloud service providers benchmark and demonstrate their practices, processes, and ethics via an independent third party to build trust with prospective customers. When accessing and retrieving digital evidence stored in the cloud, parties must remain in compliance with all relevant legislation, such as the Privacy Act of 1993, Public Records Act of 2005, and the Health Information Privacy Code of 2008. The next question posed to the New Zealand digital forensic expert by the panel was specific to the country that your team was assigned. How did the international laws and jurisdictions influence the process and procedures followed during the forensic investigation? A prevailing theme between countries when it comes to digital forensic investigation is the use of chain of custody forms and maintaining data integrity, which is done by using forensic images or hashing. However, international laws and jurisdictions make the forensic investigation process longer by the different laws and procedures that investigators are required to follow when handling data. For instance, New Zealand digital forensic investigators had to familiarize themselves with the United States laws regarding data retrieval and handling before proceeding with its investigation of the DOS and ransom attack at the Five Eyes Summit. The investigators had to make sure the information collected remained in its original state and that every step taken was documented. If New Zealand did not abide by the United States guidelines, they would have been prohibited from accessing the data, which would have greatly impacted their DOS and ransomware attack investigations. The next question posed to the New Zealand digital forensic expert by the panel is what conflicts arose between ethics and international laws during the forensic investigations? How did these conflicts affect the investigations? How were the conflicts mitigated or resolved? New Zealand did not have conflicts between ethics and international laws during its forensic investigations. However, with digital evidence collection, there could be an incident that requires private data to be accessed. This is where a conflict between ethics and international laws can arise within a forensic investigation. Some forensic investigations have required the viewing of emails, text messages, documents, and written communication, all of which can be classified as private data. The rules and regulations that digital forensic investigators must follow protects both the privacy of users and the intentions of the investigator. Digital forensic investigators can only access or collect data that pertains to a case in which legal permission has been granted to access or collect that data. International laws within the investigation did not impede on the forensic investigation as procedures were adjusted to fall within the regulations of the country in which the investigation was taking place. The last question posed to the New Zealand digital forensic expert by the panel was what steps were taken to protect New Zealand soil and citizens during the international investigation? Describe any risk to the country, businesses, or citizens from your investigations. to protect the soil and citizens of New Zealand as well as the United States during the international investigation. New Zealand's cyber management team hardened the network infrastructure. This was accomplished by deploying intrusion detection systems and intrusion prevention systems as well as antivirus software. In doing so, New Zealand hoped to prevent future malware or ransomware incidents from occurring. There were also stringent encryption protocols, digital certificates, and authenticating services implemented to ensure that the data being sent and received maintained its integrity. New Zealand deployed the DOS prevention tools Cloudflare and Arbor DDoS to stop DOS attacks before they could occur. The cyber management team also implemented the network monitoring and analysis tools Wireshark and CloudShark. New Zealand provided nations that were a part of the Five Eyes Summit training guidelines to recognize phishing attacks, which can lead to the execution of malware attacks. New Zealand believes the security precautions taken will protect its systems as well as the United States from cyber attacks. Countries, businesses, and citizens face the risk of losing important private information as well as possible financial ruin. While individuals fear having their identity stolen, the countries fear having national security information stolen. The security of private information falls on the shoulder of the government agencies established to combat cyber terrorism, as well as legislation passed addressing electronic data storage and private data access. This concludes the expert testimony for New Zealand in this court hearing. Thank you to all attending parties.